name is Jim McCarthy, and Abby and I have been teaching together for about 7 years, 6 or 7 years. Before that, we taught individually for probably at least 20 years. And the reason I'm going first in this class today was because I've had a little more like real world experience of what most people think is abundance. Right? Which most people, when you think about, going from lack to abundance, they only think about material things, money and how many houses you have, and do you drive that $100,000 Mercedes, or do you have condos in Hawaii and in Europe and things like that? And there's nothing wrong with that, but that has nothing to do with abundance, really. So when I was a lot of times in these classes, they're completely guided. So this is going to sound more like a testimonial, but in reality, it's a lesson. Okay. And this is about, first, I want to share about my life, about, you know, my life's journey and how I learned about abundance, kind of in a odd way. Okay. Um, Number one, I was very dyslexic as a kid, where I was held back in the first grade, because I wasn't learning very well. And I barely finished high school. And then I went to college. I learned the courses that I liked, that I was interested in, and then I dropped out of college and I got a job in sales. And, based on today's standards where everybody needs like a million years of school, um, you would think that I didn't have a lot of chance of being successful, like in the physical world. And and I really didn't think I had too much of a chance either, to tell you the truth. Everybody was telling me that, you got to go to school or you're going to make nothing of your life. And so I got a job in sales, and I learned how to sell. I learned the principles of selling, and I worked for Canon for a while, and they really had a lot of education involved. And then I went to the security company, and I was selling security company to banks. And it wasn't going so well because nobody liked the products I was selling, right? I mean, it was like I was selling like video cameras and access control and things like that. And they're like, we already have this, but we're getting robbed all the time. What else do you have? And I said, what do you want? And they said, bulletproof glass. And I was like, huh. And so I went and asked my boss, can we sell bulletproof glass? And they said, he said, no. I said, why not? He says, I don't want the liability. And he had inherited the business from his dad, and he was an engineer, and he wasn't really wired for business. So he made poor decisions. And so I worked there, and I completed my sales every day. And I lived in San Clemente at the time and didn't know a lot of people because I just moved there. And so I rented a room for $350. And I would at night, I had nothing to do. So I'd go down to this liquor store and I'd play Asteroids, which is a video game. And I played it with the manager of the liquor store, who was friendly. And I didn't drink. I wasn't there drinking. I was just playing video games. And at first, a quarter would last me like 5 minutes and I would lose it. Okay. And after about 3 months of going down there two, three, 4 times a week, I got really good at the game and I could play for like an hour on a quarter. So one night I'm driving home and I hear this voice in my head saying, whatever you focus your attention on, you get good at. Whatever you spend your time on, you're going to get good at. And do you really want to get better at this video game, or do you want to learn something else? And I was like, I don't know. Right. So I go home, and the next morning I woke up with an idea that maybe I should buy a computer, because at that time computers weren't in every house. And I thought, well, I'll learn on a computer so I can play video games at home. That's what I thought. So I went to the store and I had good credit. So I financed a computer and I bought it. And I saw this typing program that was a game. So I thought, okay, I'll learn how to type too. So I bought that and I did. I learned how to type really well. And then I bought a contact management software. I think it was like Act or something. And I downloaded that and I started putting all my contacts on it. And people kept asking me during the day about bulletproof glass. And I kept telling them, we don't have it. Right. So finally, I got the idea that I should open my own bulletproof company and I should sell bulletproof glass. But at the time, I was like 23 years old or something. And I thought I was too young and I didn't have any money. And, but fortunately for me, I didn't have a lot of bills either. My rent was $350 a month. So after thinking about it and really like basically contemplating it for like a few weeks, at that time I was studying hypnosis and my teacher was really profound. And he says, have you decided? Because I told him what I was going to do. And I said no. And finally, I decided I was going to try it. And he goes, good choice, right? And so I tried it. I had $500 and I just started making phone calls. And the first call I got, the first, like the second or third day I was making calls, I came across this credit union that was opening a new branch and they needed bulletproof glass, but they weren't opening for 6 months. So I took the job. I just bid the job and I figured I'd learn as I go because I had 6 months to figure it out. And so I took the job and it was about $90,000. I remember the guy's like, I said, well, I need to get a check for half because I had no money and I can get started and give me a key to the empty branch that you're moving into. And so I was like running around during the week looking at all these other bulletproof jobs and kind of reverse engineering it to see how to do it. And one thing led to the other. And 6 months later, I had learned how to do it and finished the job. And since I had no bills, I had way more money than I needed for about 6 more months. I wasn't really worried. And then I got the idea because I was like, okay, I finished that job. What do I do now? And it was like, just keep doing a good job for people. Give them what they want and exceed their expectations and try to make their life easy, and you'll be successful. That was my guidance. So I did. And over the course of about, I don't know, I did that and like the bank down the street from me got robbed. And I was sitting in my backyard watching the police show up. And I went there the next day to deposit a check. And they said, bulletproof, what do you do? And I said, I bulletproof banks, right? And they're like, really? And they said, we need that. And so I quoted it and I was like half the price of my competition, which was GE, owned by GE. And they said, why are you so inexpensive? And I said, when was the last time you got a competitive bid? And they said, years ago. And I said, that's why, right? And so I bulletproofed that bank, and the head of security called me and they said, we want to give you all of our business because I did a good job, right? And so he did. And then eventually I did the same thing with Washington Mutual Bank, and they gave me all their business on the West Coast. And then eventually I did the same thing with Chase Bank, and they gave me all their business on the West Coast. But all I was doing was a good job and making their life easy the whole time. It was about serving and having the resources to do it properly, right? And every step of the way, the right resources came, the right knowledge came, the right everything came. And I ended up at about $15 million a year worth of revenue. And I had about 65 employees and, running a multi-million dollar company with no degree and no anything, right? And I realized that I had a lot of intuition. And I realized that really, if I listened to that intuition, it always created something good. right? Like when I went into my business, intuitively, I kind of knew what to do. I knew whether to hire someone or not. I'd be sitting down interviewing people and I'd hear, don't hire them. And most of the time I would listen, but I didn't understand it, right? But I was in tune with my intuition, which is your inner teacher, right? That's why Abby and I talked so much about guidance. There's nothing more valuable than good guidance because it protects you from harm and it helps you create what you're here on earth to create, right? And that's really the essence of abundance is that. Like when I had millions of dollars I had millions of dollars in my bank account and I had, all these employees and I had all this money coming in. People are like, well, how'd you do that? And I really, looking back at it, it's like I really didn't do it, right? There was a consciousness much bigger than me that orchestrated it all, and I just paid attention to it, right? And that's really, what abundance is, because when you can look at something from that perspective, that you're just a vessel, right? And we're all here to create something and bring gifts to the world. And those gifts are meant to help other people, right? If you look at all successful businesses like Apple, you know, they make a very, very good product that we all want and we all need, right? And we buy it. They make good phones. Everything they make is pretty impeccable. And that's why they're so successful. If they started making crap tomorrow, within a short period of time, people would find somewhere else to go, right? And I intuitively knew that in business. I intuitively knew that as long as I did a good job and I was on time and my expectations exceeded my clients' expectations. Like I put together a spreadsheet for everybody that these are our, conditions that we need to meet. And those conditions were far more than what the client required, right? It wasn't like, what can we get away with? It was, how good do we want our product to be? And we set high standards and we made a high standard product, period. And the customers loved it. Okay. That's the recipe for success. And that's the recipe for financial abundance, to give something that's valuable and that's needed. And if you do that, nobody can stop it, right? If people all of a sudden said, "Hey, don't buy Apple products," or, don't buy this car or that car, and it's a really well-made car, are you going to listen? Right? It's like, why? It's a better product, right? So in terms of the outer world, right? Abundance is actually an effect. It's not the cause, right? People, when they think of lack, going from lack consciousness to abundant consciousness, right? That's why we titled the class that way. It's not about getting all this money and then your problems are solved. It's about learning the laws of abundance and the recipe to abundance and then putting it in action, right? And the recipe to abundance is to align yourself with light and ask the light to use you and help you create what you came to earth to create. And the key to that is whatever you create, the divine light is going to give you all that's needed to create it because it funds its own products. Okay. With my company, not only did I go from $500 to 15 million a year, I never took a loan, right? I always had an abundance of money. I had times where there was $400,000 or $500,000 worth of checks in my desk drawer, and I just let them sit there because I was too lazy to go to the bank. Okay. But there was always more coming in than I needed. Of course, you as a business person, you've got to price things accordingly to where you don't create lack for yourself by fear. Okay. Right. If you're too afraid to charge what you need and what your business needs to sustain itself, then you're going to go into lack and you're going to go into fear and you're not going to have the resources to do your job properly, right? So you need to, really, if you can just attune yourself to your divine guidance and clear away fear and clear away any obstacles that block your divine guidance, you will be successful. There's no doubt about it. Okay. And you'll create something much bigger than you thought you could create without much effort. Right. Again, when I was running this company, I would watch things happen. And every once in a while, I'd be asked, what do we do about this? And I would listen to my guidance, and the guidance would give me the answer. And then I would just say what I heard, right? And that's something that most people don't do in business. They don't understand to bring light and intuition to the business, right? And ask that light to surround the business with light and remove any obstacles that block its will, right? It's way more powerful than trying to do it with your mind. Okay. Because normally when we do it with our mind, we're doing it from a place of being finite, not infinite. And we're thinking that we're in charge of all this stuff. And that in itself puts us into fear. And once we're into fear, our thoughts mirror what we're feeling. And then we think, well, we don't have enough resources. We don't have enough of that. We don't have... If I would have thought that, I would have never created the company. Right? It just took me one step at a time. And there were times in the company to where I wanted it to grow much faster than it was growing because I thought that would give me security, right? But when I look back at it, it grew at the perfect rate for me to learn how to handle the growth, right? If it would have grown, like every once in a while, it would like double overnight. But most of the time, it would grow kind of like, a little bit each year. And I think it took about 10 years to reach the $15 million a year mark. Okay. But, you know, the truth of the matter is that if you can completely eradicate from your thinking that abundance has anything to do with the outside world, right? That's the effect of consciousness. It's not the creator, right? And you can tune into that part of you that beats your heart without you having to think about it, that breathes your lungs, right? And one of my teachers always said, I am God breathed, right? Meaning that he didn't have to think about breathing, it just happened. With me, I never really had to think about, all I had to do is make decisions, say yes or no, say yes or no, say yes or no. And when I said yes, when I was guided to say yes, and I said yes, even if it was a growth period to where it was like there was a little bit of fear, it always came out well. And I learned to trust it. But when I was guided to say no and I said yes, I always got myself into trouble, which I did. Okay. I mean, I definitely got into trouble a few times because I as the company got bigger, I started fooling myself into thinking that I was the one that created it and I was the one responsible for it. And that created a lot of stress, right? And looking back at it, I realized that if you if you always put the light first, like there's Mother Mara is an avatar in Germany, and she says, everything you do, offer it to me in all the results and all your expectations, and then just do your best at it. Okay. And if I look back at my journey going from $500 to 15 million a year, it was exactly that, right? I didn't know enough formally with education to try to do it with my mind. I had to do it through intuition, which is your inner teacher, right? And it forced me to do it that way. And it was funny because when I started hiring like CFOs and controllers and everything else, I thought, oh God, they know what they're doing, so I don't have to worry about it. And the first thing they did was saying, oh, we have to give all the management raises, and you're paying the people in the back too much. And we need to start charging more, and we need to start, cutting our costs. And I was like, why? And they're like, because that's how business is. right? You have to like make as much money as you can and give as little as you can. I was like, no, that doesn't make sense, right? So I didn't follow it. But that's how a lot of these companies are getting to, right? They're getting to a point where it's like, how little can we give and how much can we get? Look at some of these restaurant chains, okay? Like P.F. Chang's, for example, or the Cheesecake Factory, or um, there's a bunch of them, there's a ton of them. And most of them used to have like an hour wait. And what happened was, one of my board members was a CPA for all these multi-billion dollar companies. And what happens with them is the person that created it from their heart and made a good product eventually sells out. And he just says, I don't want to do it anymore. So now investors take over the company. And their role isn't to make a good product to serve. Their role is to get a return on their investment and make as much money as they can. So they make choices based on that, and those choices, and usually they pay too much for the company. So now they have to cut the quality of the food and cut overhead and cut the quality of the ingredients and then raise prices. And they find a balance to where they're making as much money on the least amount of spending as they can get, and they've lost. People, we're not stupid. We notice it when we go in, and now they don't have multi-hour lines out in front of their stores, right? They don't. So let me look at my notes here. So when I look back at my journey, the first thing I recognized was I had intuitive guidance. Okay. And without that, I would have never created this. I had a connection to it. And without that, I could never have created this. I also had the ability to go into other companies and recognize whether they were going to be successful, whether they were going to fail, whether they were um, like more of a predator energy, whether they were just trying to get and not give anything. And I recognized all these and I watched them. And the reason why I got so successful was I did the opposite, right? The companies I was competing against, they were just trying to get as much as they could for the least amount. And they didn't really care about the customer's desires or expectations. They're just like, we're the only game in town. Well, I ended up taking like 80% of their business. And I never tried to, it just happened. Okay. Because I was giving the customer a better life, a better quality of life. Right. And so when we think about how do we go from lack consciousness to abundance, the first question you want to ask yourself is, what am I here to bring to the world? Right? What does the divine want me to do? Because we're all here to work for light. We either work for light or we work for darkness. So we want to choose to work for light because light's the only thing that's got the power to be successful long term. And we want to find out what our purpose is. And when you find out those two things and you connect to them, now you have abundance because everything is already within you at that point. And then it's a matter of letting it unfold. It has nothing to do with when I have 5 houses and $1 million in the bank and all these gold coins and the right car and the right wife and the right husband, then I've got abundance. It doesn't work that way, right? Abby and I were at the gym the other day and we were watching this guy who had a lot of money. And he had a lot of money, he had a young girlfriend, or he was trying to have a young girlfriend. I wasn't quite sure how that was working. But he was he was sitting there and and he he was kind of he had a false sense of security, ego, false security. And I was watching him and my guides were tuning in, right? This intuition. Abundance is having intuition, right? So my guides step in and they're like, "Do you see this man?" I said, "Yeah." And they said he's operating from a false sense of security because he's got money. but eventually he won't have money and he'll feel like a failure because all of his self-worth is based on money, right? If you have a connection with light and you're in tune with your guidance, nobody can take that from you and nobody can defeat it. That's abundance. Okay. And when you realize as long as you're in attunement with that, it's going to give you everything you need for your perfect expression. That's abundance. And with that abundance, there's no fear. Okay. Look at nature. Look at an apple tree. It starts as a seed. If you put it in good soil, it starts to grow. And it doesn't have to take thought. It becomes exactly what it was put on earth to become. And it just kind of expresses itself. Okay. But that's what it chose to come to earth to be, is an apple tree. So it produces fruit. With us, right, the seed within us or the soil within us is, are we open to guidance? And the seed is the guidance that we get. When that guidance comes in, if we're receptive to it and we don't reject it, and then we take action, we'll be successful. That's abundance, right? And it knows everything about you. It knows what you need, right? I've seen it to where, a person, Sarah O'Mara, she had a thing called child help, which was to protect abused children and to foster them. And they, at noon, they knew they needed $1 million by the end of the day, or they were going to be shut down. And they made a few calls, and this lady says, "We usually don't give that kind of money." It was charity. And they said, "But I feel the calling to give it to you. And I'll call my daughter. If she'll give $500,000, I'll give the other half." And sure enough, the money was wired by the end of the day, right? That's what light can bring about. If you're in alignment with the divine light, there's no limitations to what can be brought to you, right? I went from having barely being able to afford one house to having three houses. Okay. And I didn't really think about it. It was just all natural. All I remember from that was more work kept coming in and I had to focus on getting it done. That was it. And the more people I served, the more I gave, the more I got, right? That's the law of abundance. The more you give, the more you get. Okay. And the more you take without the giving, the more is taken from you, right? That's how it works, right? We're here to give. And one time Abby and I were meditating, and we were meditating on this, not on this class particularly, but on the law of abundance. And so we have these guides, and we decided we were going to meditate, and we brought in the light. And the first thing they showed me was a complete ball of the sun. And they said, "Put it in your heart." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because the sun is self-maintaining and self-sustaining, and it nourishes the whole earth and gives all the plants and all the humans and everything else the energy and the nourishment it needs spiritually." And I said, "Okay." And they said, "You're like the sun. If the divine light's within you, you just need to let it shine from you. And as it shines, as you get in tune with it and it shines, you have unlimited ability to create. And there's no lack because it just keeps coming, right? It keeps coming. And that's like, that's the truth. And the more you know that truth, the more it takes effect in you. Okay. So when you think about abundance, don't think about the effect world, the outside world. Think about how much in tune am I with this divine light that's all knowing, that's all loving, that's all powerful, and knows how to manifest anything I need all the time. Okay. And then start to ask for that part of you to teach you how to live in abundance and to show you in abundance and to increase your faith that abundance is inherently within you. Teach you that lesson, right? And when you learn that lesson, you can't create anything different at that point, right? I mean, I can honestly say that my outside life has changed to where I have, I have, I don't have 65 employees anymore, and I don't have that company anymore, but I still have abundance because that wasn't my abundance. My abundance is my consciousness. Okay. And that's what we want to, like the seed of abundance is your consciousness. And so you want to nourish that seed. How do you nourish that seed? You get in tune with it every single day and ask it to lead your day. When you have a project to do, you invite it in and you say, lead me, guide me, and direct me through this project and bring what's needed for your will to happen, right? And then you're not working from mind or limited beliefs. You're working from an infinite consciousness that's all knowing, right? It knows how to protect you. It knows how to supply you. It knows what wisdom to give you. It knows everything, right? And when I look back, the reason I shared my testimony about my own business was because everything was stacked against me and I was just too dumb to know it, right? I mean, it was like I had $500 and no education, but I trusted my guidance, right? Steve Jobs had no money and no education. He trusted his guidance. And as it unfolded, he became more and more wealthy. The only caveat with that is never, always give the divine light or that consciousness within you the credit, right? Let it be in charge. When I was running my company, I was meeting with one of my employees one time, and we were working on an organizational chart, right? Like the CEO and then the CFO and all these things. And I I said, "You're missing one." And he says, "What?" And I said, "You have to put the divine as the CEO. You have to put light as the CEO. And then I report to that, and then I share what I get with everybody else, right? And hopefully more than just me are reporting to it, right? Right. But in this, I learned about business because I did it for 25 years, but I also learned about how to detect darkness in business and how to get rid of it. Okay. And how to recognize whether an employee is bringing value to the business or a vampire of the business, right? You can easily detect that energetically. And Abby and I were thinking about having like a 1 day event to go deeper into this because an hour is just not going to do it. But it's really, when you can just kind of like go into the spirit and the energy flow of things, it's far more accurate than the mind. It's far more accurate, right? If someone's full of fear and drama and everything else, th that's what they're going to create, right? So if you can recognize that, you either learn how to clear them or clear them out of your company because they're always going to be an obstacle to success, right? Huge egos are always an obstacle to success in a company, right? But I also did some consulting and I still do with business owners. I was consulting with this woman one time, and my guides wanted to share this, me to share this with you. She was a very successful woman, and I was consulting with her, and she wanted to, she was having some problems in her business. And so I looked at her business, and she's like, my business is starting to fail, and I don't know why. And I said, I know why it's failing. And she says, why? And I said, because your product is not a good product. It's not really benefiting the people. You're a good salesperson, but your product isn't really delivering. And I said, I have a product that's a perfect fit for you that will deliver, and it's already created. It produces the effects that it says it's going to produce, and it's going to benefit humanity. And I can get you private labeling rights to it. And she's like, no, I'm not interested in that. Right. And I said, why not? She goes, I couldn't make as much money on it. I said, okay. She failed. She failed completely, right? She lost, from what I heard, she lost everything. And it was clear as day what she needed. It's what every business needs. It needs a good product. Okay. And, you know, when you work from the light, when you work from the divine, you're going to create products. You're not going to copy people because God doesn't create duplicates, right? It's like we're all here and we're a snowflake and we're here to bring a certain thing. And when you're in alignment with that, you're unstoppable. That's abundance. That's complete abundance. The obstacles to abundance, I wrote some things down. The biggest blocks to creating wealth are number one, believing that you don't have anything, right? And the Bible says, to those that have, all will be given. To those that don't, what they have will be taken. And I'm not quoting that exactly, but what that means is that when you believe you have, right? And when you know you have, which is knowing that you're here for a purpose and that purpose is within you, it's just finding it. But you have something, okay? Whatever that is, you want to come to life. How do you bring it to life? You ask for it to come into your awareness. What's my purpose? What do you want me to do today? And let it come, right? What am I here on earth to do? Let it unfold. You don't have to think about it. You ask, you receive. Okay. You don't have to think, right? What did Christ say? Take no thought for your life. Peace be still. Know that I in the midst of you is God, right? That's your intuition. Your intuition comes from the divine. So if you're busy thinking and worrying about finances and this and that, you need to clear that. And that's, if you need help with that, Abby and I can help. But if you're stuck in fear, the first thing you need to do to get to your guidance is clear away the fear. If you believe in lack, the first thing you need to do is heal that. How do you heal it? You recognize that it's a misperception because it isn't. It isn't real. Okay. It's all of these rules that men set up to where you have to do X, Y, Z, E, G, F, whatever, and then you'll be successful. Well, I notice some of these multi-billion-dollar companies, they're skating on thin ice because they're taking and they're taking and they're taking, and they're not giving very much anymore. And eventually they'll take so much that there's nothing left to give them. And in business, there's a law that you have to support the business and you have to support your employees and you have to support the customers to where everybody's strong. And if everybody's strong, the business will be strong. If one of those links aren't strong, the business isn't going to be strong. If your employees are drained because you're taking more than you're giving them, they're not going to be able to perform. They're going to be working 3 jobs to pay their bills. What are they going to have to give you when they're at work? They're going to be exhausted, right? So you have to support them. Same thing with your customers. You have to support them. You have to give them what they're paying for, okay? And you have to let them support the business by giving you what you need in order to support them. It's balance, okay? It's all universal law. And universal law means everything has to be in balance. It has to be in harmony. Okay. So when I work with businesses, I look for what's out of harmony. I look for negative energy. I look for perceptions because we're so powerful as human beings. When we believe in lack, we create it. Okay. If we believe we're not good enough, we're not going to be good enough, period. So all of those obstacles have to be cleaned out. How do you clean them out? You acknowledge them, you bring them to the light, and you ask the light to heal them because you can't do it from the level of the problem, right? So, other biggest blocks to creating wealth, not allowing your intuition or guidance. Okay, that's huge. Okay. Being stuck in negative emotions, fear, hate, anger, rage, jealousy. being too focused on what other people are doing. Okay. And you actually lose yourself. You lose your connection. Okay. So when those things happen, you got to know how to clear them. If you lament in them, then you're not really in your essence anymore. You're not in your intuition, which is your abundance. Okay. That's your abundance. That's the starting point. Worrying about competition or what other people think or doing from you. You know, I don't worry about competition. I do what I do. Okay. And I just try to do it as well as I can. And it usually works out pretty well. Okay. Um, and I also don't cut corners in terms of when I create something, I do it right. And then I just charge what I need to charge in order to cover my expenses and my profit. Period. Because if you're in lack consciousness, you're going to be afraid to charge too much. Okay. Because that's what you believe. There's not enough. Okay. In Switzerland, the way they work there is they compete on quality, not on price. Right. When Abby and I were in Switzerland, we're asked, well, how do you guys get away with charging so much for things? And how do you compete? And they said, well, we don't compete on price. We compete on quality because it's impossible to compete on price because we have to charge that much. It's the way it works here, right? But they create a product based on what's needed, and then they work back and cover their expenses, right? And what if we could do that, right? The other block to abundance is when you put your boss as your authority versus the light within you as your authority, right? If you work for a company that's taking and taking and taking and taking and barely giving anything back and treating people like they're like second class citizens, you're going to get drained. You're going to get burned out. Okay. So you need to recognize it and move out of that. That will not create abundance for you. Okay. Um, so, like any emotions like fear, confusion, we need to learn how to clear them. Okay. And it's really easy. You just offer them to the light within you, and you ask the light to heal, to take them out of you, and to heal your thoughts and perceptions associated with it. And then let it happen because you can't micromanage it. That consciousness is way bigger than your mind. And don't play small for anyone. Okay. Do what you're here to do and don't worry about it. Put the light within you first and its purpose for you. Whether or not it pleases people or not, it doesn't matter. What matters is you're attuned to it and you know what you're here to do. With that, everything else comes by grace. Um, so I looked up something from Yogananda today. I don't know if anybody knows Yogananda, but very high soul. Okay. And it was about consciousness of lack is what I looked up. And he put divine law of service. Give to the world the best you have, and the best will come back to you. Okay. Selfless giving activates positive astral forces for prosperity. Right. And that's what I realized. I never was focused on what I needed to get. I was focused on doing the best job I could every time I got a job and just do it as well as I can. That was it. Okay. And charge enough to cover my expenses and what I needed to make to grow the business, which all came through intuition, right? Um, yeah. I mean, basically, in a nutshell, going from lack to abundance is really about when you are feeling afraid, confused, when you're thinking, I'm not going to have enough. Okay. You got to realize that you're misperceiving at that point and learn how to clear it. Okay. And the way you clear it is you basically just call the divine light in and say, I offer this to you. Please take it out of me and please heal and correct my thoughts. Align me with the laws of abundance. Allow me to know the truth of abundance. When you know that truth of abundance, you'll never be in lack again. There was a guy, a mystic that I studied with named Joe Goldsmith, and he overnight he became a very successful healer. He got the gift of healing from the Holy Spirit. And people would come to him and they'd say, if you pray for me, I'll be healed. And he would, and they'd get healed. And he didn't know how it happened. It was just light was working through him, and that's what it brought was healing. And he didn't understand it, but he was told he couldn't charge for it. So he had been a businessman, and all of a sudden now he's a healer. And in that transformation, he lost all his material wealth, right? And he was like, well, if I can't charge for healing, how do I make a living? And he started experiencing lack. And he also realized that was a lesson for him. And he needed to learn how to understand abundance through grace, not through working every day the way he was conditioned and making a product. Okay. So he kept asking for the lesson. Help me understand abundance. And eventually he realized what abundance was. And as soon as he realized it, the outside world changed instantly. And he started getting huge donations and gifts and houses and all this stuff. And he was never in lack again. But if you can like realize that learning abundance is like learning arithmetic, you're learning universal laws, right? And the way you learn them is tune into the divine and ask it to teach you, right? One of the things I got for education was because I always went to the best people and made them teach me. Well, when I was in my early 20s, one of my teachers said, if you want to learn something, go to the best and make them teach you. So I did, right? I would find like, the best people in the world. When I was running this company, I was traveling all over the world, studying with avatars and people like that. And I was learning. Okay. I wasn't that interested in the business. It was just a means to an end for me. I was good at it, but it wasn't my life's purpose long term. It was something I needed to experience, and I learned it. And now that I've learned it, I can help other businesses go from financial lack and poverty to success, to a success that nobody can stop. Okay. Because it's all about aligning yourself with divine law, period. Right. And learning that what you put out comes back. Right. And asking the divine to bring you the products it wants you to create and put out there in the marketplace. That's how it works in business. And as you get that and you're in tune with it, your fear goes away because you know it's going to work. It goes back into trust and faith. Right. So anyway, um, I'm trying to think of, I thought about doing a quick meditation on this. And the meditation is really to connect you to your own guides. And we all share guides. And my guides happen to be really good at business. So anybody that has business problems, you'll have access to my guides too. Okay. And we can just kind of connect. And I think I'll take you through maybe how to clear like fear of lack, because that's really key. Fear of lack or, fear of not knowing or fear of future bills or whatever, you know. But let's just see where it goes. Like everything else, let's connect to the light and see where it takes us. We all ready? And I'll try and make it short because Abby comes on in about 10 minutes. Okay. All right. So anyway, so connecting to the light within you is your foundation for everything else, right? It if you don't do it on a regular basis, you lose your relationship with it. Okay. The more you do it, the more it operates in you. Okay. The more it operates in you, the more your life starts to heal, the more you start to create what you're here for. It's the way it works. Okay. So, Okay. So the way we connect to the divine is to be in the present moment, period. Okay. So what I do, I close my eyes, take a deep breath. I call in my divine angels and guides. I call in the divine presence. Some call it the Holy Spirit. Some call it infinite wisdom, source energy. Whatever name you have for it, know that it's an all-knowing consciousness that would never hurt you and knows everything. It's also an omnipotent, all-powerful consciousness that knows how to protect you from anything and has authority over everything when it's called in. So it's all-knowing, it's all-powerful, and it's omnipresent. So when you call it in, it connects to every relationship in your life. It connects you to everything in the divine world. Okay. The only thing you're not really connected to at that point is darkness. So just call in the divine presence, Holy Spirit, and ask it to connect you strongly with its light, with its consciousness. And then be still and allow the connection to happen. And now let's just simplify things. Let's ask this divine presence to go before you and remove any obstacles, misperceptions that are blocking you from living a life of being in complete abundance. Any thoughts that you hold, any beliefs that you hold, any perceptions that you hold. Ask this consciousness to start to heal them and correct them and replace them with light, with thoughts of truth, of right thought. And again, just get out of the way and give it time. And just check in and see if you feel an energy with you, a consciousness. Do you feel expanded? Do you feel peace? And I want you to offer this consciousness your work in life, along with all the results. And ask this consciousness to realign you with the work it brought you to earth to do, and to bring the resources into your life to do this work. The guidance, the wisdom, just ask it to fill you with all of the resources you need to realign yourself with your divine purpose and to do the work you're here on earth to do. And ask it to keep working on this until you're crystal clear. Let it lead the way. Let it open up your path. Let it open up the doors. Ask it to help you trust it and have faith in it. And start to understand it. Some of the fears that we have are the fear of not knowing, the fear of not having, the fear of not having the resources to meet future challenges. What I want you to start to realize is that this consciousness you're now connecting to knows what you don't know and has all of the resources to meet your future challenges. It is the consciousness that will always succeed. And as you feel comfortable and you open yourself to that consciousness more often and start to trust in it, you'll notice opportunities come to you. You might get inspired to do something. And then just take action and ask it to guide you every step of the way. Abundance starts with consciousness. It starts with your connection to an all-knowing consciousness. And the more you dwell in this consciousness, the more you operate in alignment with it. The more you're protected by it. The more you're never alone. So each day, tune into this consciousness. Ask it to lead you, guide you, protect you each and every step of your day. Ask it to bring those to you that it can help you through, that it can bless you through, that it can heal you through, and to bring you those that it can help through you, heal through you, bless through you, serve through you. And then get out of the way and just allow it to happen. And if you did this, would there be any lack? Or would you have complete abundance and resources that you didn't even know that existed before? Abundance is going from the finite self, which is the mind, to the infinite self, which is your spirit. And that spirit is one with God and one with all of the true creation from God, all of the resources. It knows how to remove obstacles. It knows how to bring resources. And the wisdom and guidance that you need to be successful and protected in whatever you do. True success comes from having a strong foundation. And this connection with light is the strongest foundation there is. All else is a gift. You're given gifts from the light, and you share the gifts from the light. And in return, others are given gifts from the light, and they share them with you. And as long as you can operate in that consciousness, you'll never be harmed. You might have lessons and challenges in life, but you'll always get through them. And you'll become stronger and stronger and stronger. So let's do a little exercise about letting go of fear of lack. Turn to this consciousness and just say, I offer you all my fear of lack. Please take this out of me. Please remove all of the thoughts associated with this fear of lack. Please fill me with light, with truth, and give me complete faith and trust in this light, in this consciousness, in the divine, as my supply, as infinite supply. And help me to know and understand this completely. Please, God. Thank you, God. You did nothing more than each morning made this connection and asked the divine to bring you the work it wants you to do today and to help you every step of the way. and let go of any attachment to what the outcome should be or expectations of how fast it should happen, and just did your best, you would have a significant healing over time. And you wouldn't carry the burden. Where we get afraid is we need this now. We need it to appear in the outside world so we don't feel so scared. Let go of that. This connection is your consciousness, is your abundance. Put it first. What's it say in the Bible? Put God first and everything else will be added on to you. Make that connection and put it first. Everything else comes by grace. That's abundance. This is why Abby and I have weekend retreats to teach people to connect to this more and more strongly. As it becomes a habit, you heal. And you step into your power because that's your power. So let's take a breath and just feel the presence of this energy. Ask it to help you get to know it and to trust it. And ask it to give you clear guidance to light up your path in life. And to remove any obstacles that are blocking your true path in life. And then get out of the way and have faith that it knows how to do its job. And thank it for being in operation in your life. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. Okay. So we're going to take about a 5-minute break, 6-minute break, and come back at 3:20 with Abby. Okay? Thank you.
My name's Abby O'Neill. I'm a medical intuitive. And I thought for my part of this abundance class, I would sort of go backwards in terms of going backwards in time to our childhood and thinking about how to let go of some of the obstacles we might have from childhood that are very hidden to us. So I'm going to be leading a long meditation about releasing obstacles we might have to abundance. I started thinking about it because I grew up with my mom, and I know that in the world of abundance, we're the creator. Like Jim says, we create with light, and as we step into our power, there's no limits. We create everything we experience. So then, why, with my clients and even with myself, do I sometimes create something that isn't so great? Hello. And I thought about my mom because my mom was an artist and she went to New York early in her life and she was very, very good. But she felt that she failed. A few things didn't work out and she came back to Indiana first lived with her parents and lived on her own, raising me by herself. And she was kind of miserable, I have to say. And I often thought about this studio she made for herself at the back of the house. It was an artist studio, but she picked the one room in the house that didn't have any heating. And it's Indiana. It's cold in the winter, it's hot in the summer. It had no insulation. So here she is, trying to become an artist, trying to manifest her art, and she was incredibly talented. But she gave herself a studio that was incredibly uncomfortable. It was too cold to paint out there in the winter, and it was too hot in the summer. There was no windows you could open. Um, and this was sort of her pattern where she would try to do something, but it was so weighted against her. And when I got older, I thought, well, we had other rooms in the house. Why didn't she put her studio in one of those rooms? And I thought to myself, she's just creating punishment for herself. And indeed, she did continue to do that. And I remember her saying to my grandmother, her mother, she said, well, so and so, she got married a lot. She said, my present husband, it's not working out. And my grandmother said, sort of probably said, I told you so, because she wasn't very supportive. And my mother just sort of meekly said, Mom, yeah, I know I made a mistake. But when my mom said that, I suddenly realized that what my mom was getting from that interaction was my grandmother's love. My mom played the part of the bad girl, the bad kid who was always making a mistake, always screwing up. And that's how she got my grandmother's love. She played that part. And I began to see, and I've also seen it with my clients, that maybe in our childhood, there's a certain child self that gets a little frozen, and we aren't so aware of it when we get older. But that ability to manifest, I do believe we have it. But the important part is not to let the child be at the controls. Don't let the kid run the show, because the child is going to be wounded. And another kind of client I work with, oddly enough, is the good child. Now, you'd think the good child would have it all because they were used to succeeding and getting the parents' approval. But I work with at least three, probably more, people who have never quite recovered from being the good child. One of my clients also had sisters and brothers to take care of. She was the oldest child. And she has a terrible time going to sleep at night because she's always thinking of, I need to do one more thing. Maybe there's one more thing I haven't done. I've got to be perfect. I've got to take care of all these people. Another one of my clients, again, the good child, is a millionaire, but he is always stressed. He's always worried about, I've got to do this. This is in front of me. This has to be perfect. All of their expectations come from pleasing other people. I think the good children, in a way, are in worse shape than the bad children. But in either case, they're living a script. They're living a script where they thought they would get the parents' love a certain way. And there's part of us that's still that kid. Of course, we want our parents' love. No matter how many years have rolled down the pike, we're still that person. And unless that person gets healed, we're likely to unconsciously repeat that. Another child self I've run into is, we have the good child, the bad child, we have the mad child, the angry child. I remember when I was in high school, I went out with a guy who was probably going to go to Harvard. He was super bright. His dad went to Harvard. His grandfather went to Harvard. I think that great grandfather gave a building to Harvard. You get the drift here. And he was supposed to go to Harvard. He was already a straight A student, but this is who he was supposed to be. And his father was so tough on him. And the first act of rebellion was he didn't go to Harvard. He went to a state school in Indiana. And then his father kept pushing him to transfer to Harvard. So at that point, he had a mental breakdown. He went into a mental institution for 3 years and he was on all kinds of drugs. And he later told me that the greatest moment for him was when his father came to visit him in the hospital and said, "Well, I know you're never going to go to Harvard." And my friend said he felt this huge weight coming off of him. It was like he had been so angry that someone would do that to him that he did everything he could to rebel against it. And his win was, okay, my father's going to leave me alone for the rest of my life. I don't have to have that pressure. Now, you notice with all these child selves, we're not really self-destructive. It's not a case of self-sabotage. We're still trying to win something. We're just trying to win something that doesn't quite line up with our idea of prosperity or abundance. And then the last kind of child I think is very true. I would call the sad child. And that would be a child where they just didn't get much attention. It wasn't like they were bad. It wasn't like they were good. It wasn't like they were rebelling. It was more like nobody noticed. They might even have a parent that they had to take care of, or a sibling that was outshining them, or sick that they had to be there for. I find that they often grow up to be adults that often are caring for other people, which is, of course, a beautiful thing. But they sort of lost their own identity in the shuffle, or they don't put as much emphasis on themselves because for them, that's what they're used to. They're used to getting love by, it sounds like it's a strange thing to say, by not getting love. They're used to helping everybody else, and that's how they fit into the social structure. How do we overcome this child self, and how do we break through into our adult self? We have to make peace with our child. We all probably had some weird child self going on there, but at the same time, as that child heals, they also more and more often let go of controlling our life. So we can bring our adult self to the controls of our life so we can manifest. If my Hopefully if my mother had a little therapy or had a little help, she would have put her art studio in a much bigger room in the house and really gotten into her art. It took her being able to say, okay, I feel enough divine love in my heart. I feel enough support. I feel enough healing to where I don't have to do that to get my parents' love. And a lot of this is so unconscious. It's not like we wake up tomorrow and think, okay, I'm going to do this, because it's so subliminal. It may have been a pattern that we absorbed when we were 6, 7, 8. We may have not have thought of it for years, but it may be informing us in a very subtle way. It may be why we choose one thing over another. It may be why we're just not that comfortable with earning more money. It may be why we're not comfortable with a job where we have to take more of a starring part. It may be why we're not leaving a job to really pursue something we really want to do. So, what I'd like to do today is lead us in a meditation where we can just sort of get into the energy, try to connect to how we felt when we were a young child, and just see if there's any pattern there that we can heal. Because I have found with my clients that the more we go to that very subliminal level and heal it, the more the person can wake up the next day and just say, okay, I'm conscious of this pattern. I'm letting it go consciously, and now I'm moving into what I really want to do. So, if everyone's ready to meditate, I want you to just get comfortable. We're just going to do a general meditation at first to really feel our chi or life force energy. And then we're slowly going to move into this realm of healing this child within us. So I'd like you to close your eyes and just start breathing. Once again, we use the breath to really connect with the peace within us. Just slow down and breathe. I want you to breathe all the way down. So breathe past your chest, into your stomach, into your belly, even way down to your toes. Just feel that breath fill your body. And now with this breath, I want you to pull it all the way in and hold the breath just for a moment of stillness. Now let it out when you feel it. We hold the breath because that way our body is completely still and serene. We aren't breathing in, we aren't breathing out. We're at a moment of complete stillness. So let's do that again. Let's take a deep breath in, hold it, breathe it out. Now we're going to roll our head on our neck. So we just let our head go. We just roll it around. Is there any goal to this? Well, it's just to relax. So you can do that. You can relax. Just let your head roll around. Your head should be loose and limp, loose and limp. If there's any stiff places at the back of your neck, just be very gentle. Just roll over them very gently. Now we're going to raise our shoulders right up under our ears. So now we're going to be as tense as we possibly can be. We're squeezing our shoulders up, up, higher, higher, higher. Now let them drop. Let's do that one more time. Squeeze your shoulders way, way, way up. Tighter, tighter, tighter. Now let them drop. Now we're going to raise our hands right up in the air. I want you to feel the stretch from the base of your spine up through your back, your neck, your shoulders, your arms, right up to your hands. I want you to stretch more, more, more. Now your hands are going to come down, but very, very slowly, very slowly. It's like they're floating. It's like they're weightless and they're just drifting in the air. In fact, your whole body is weightless. If a breeze came along, it would just blow you sideways. Your whole body has no weight at all. You're just floating, just floating, floating in this beautiful energy. And now your hands are hanging at your sides. If you're lying down, your hands are just lying limply. And I want you to feel your shoulders. They're so relaxed. Your shoulders are just hanging there. There's no tension in your shoulders at all. And now we're going to rotate on our hips. If you're sitting up, I want you to lean forward, lean to the side, lean to the back, and lean to the side. We're going in a big circle. If you're lying down, I just want you to move your hips slowly and softly. You're just gently having a rotation that relaxes your back, relaxes your spine, relaxes the base of your spine. If there's any sore places, just go over it very gently. We're just relaxing now. Now we're going to go in the opposite direction. Another big circle. Another stretch. Just feel that stretch. Feel that stretch going around and around. Now we're going to sit up. Let's take a moment of stillness. How does your body feel right now? Remember, there's no right answers. It's your body. Is there pain? Is there tension? Do you feel spacey? Do you feel light? How do you feel? I want you to imagine a bright, bright light coming down through the top of your head, filling your body. It's rushing into your body. We're calling it in the name of God, Creator, Great Spirit. It's the universal consciousness, the divine energy. It's always within us. It's always pouring through our crown chakra, filling our body, creating our energy. If you have a hard time with the image of light, think about electricity. Think about wind blowing through you. Think about standing under a waterfall with the water pelting on you. If you're not visual, just feel a warm feeling, a feeling of happiness or someone that you really care about, because that's your chi, that's your life force energy. If you're visual, you can feel it rushing down your arms, rushing down your legs, swirling around your heart. You might feel a warm feeling in your heart. This energy might show itself to you like a tingling, a buzzing. Sometimes people feel ringing in their ears, a throbbing in their third eye. Let's take a moment to feel this energy. Remember, you have a pulse. What does that pulse feel like? That's your energy. Now we're in your heart. Your heart is overflowing with this beautiful warmth and it's flooding out of you all around you. It becomes your energy field. When light hits it, it's your aura. So you have a beautiful protection all around you of light and energy. And I want you to take a moment to feel that now. It's always there, whether you know it or not. It's always protecting you. And you can tune into it if you're ever in a situation where you feel you need protection, even if it's a family dinner. Just imagine that beautiful light, that beautiful energy all around you like a bubble. It's always there to protect you. Now we're going back to your heart. Your heart is like a generator of chi or life force energy. And that's because every moment of happiness or joy creates more chi. It creates more energy. That's why it's a good idea to be happy, because we create more chi. But I want you to go into your heart now. It might feel warm, it might feel a little buzzy. I want you to think back the last week or two of some moments that you had that were happy, joyful. Now remember, it may not be huge like winning the lottery. It might have been walking your dog, seeing a sunset, ordering a latte, something that gives you comfort, something that makes you feel peaceful or joyful. So let's think of some of those memories right now. There's nothing wrong with filling up our battery if we get stressed or depressed. Think of a happy memory. Think of a happy plan you've got for the future. Think of something comfortable you want to do. There's no limit on happiness, and it always gives us energy. It always gives us protection. So remember, that's the first place to go if you feel you need a little bit of energy. Now we're going to give ourselves a little bit of energy in a different way. So I want you to put your hands out in front of your heart, palms up, just like somebody was going to put an apple or an orange in your hands. But they're putting in a ball of light, a ball of energy. So, first of all, how does that feel? Can you feel it? Can you feel any friction between your hands or any heat? Can you feel that feeling? And if you can't, don't despair. We're calling in your guides and your angels to help fill up your hands with energy, with chi, life force energy, whether you can feel it or not. So it's there. You just have to trust it. Now, you might be seeing a certain color. It might feel heavy or light. It might be getting bigger or smaller. But like I said, if you're not feeling anything, that's okay too, because we're intending it. We're calling in our guides and angels, divine energy, and we're saying, yes, I have a ball of this beautiful chi or life force energy in my hands. And then we say to ourselves, dearest God, Creator, I accept this gift of love that you're giving me today. Part of abundance is simply acceptance. We have to know that gifts are being given to us every day, and we have to say to ourselves, I accept them. If we don't accept them, they're maybe floating right by. I don't know. But I do know the more I say I accept and receive, the more flows into my life. So we still have that ball of energy in our hands. What are we going to do with it? Can you feel it now? Do you get any impressions about it? We're going to put that energy right in our heart. Can you feel it now going into your energy field, into your heart? We say to ourselves, I receive it in my heart and in my life. Let's do that one more time. We have a ball of energy or light in our hands. Can you see it? Can you feel it? Now, this is a gift from the universe to you today, to you specifically. So, what is this gift? Is it an answer to a question? Is it an improvement in a relationship? Is it joy? Is it patience? Is it strength? What gift is being given to you specifically today? Let's focus in on it. Again, we say to ourselves, dearest God, Creator, I accept this gift that you're giving me today. Yes, it's out here, and yes, we are going to accept it. What does the energy feel like now? If you can see anything, do you feel colors? Do you feel a message coming to you? Do you feel warmth in your hands? Do you feel heaviness, lightness? Is it getting bigger or smaller? Let's put this right in your heart. We say to ourselves, I receive it in my heart and in my life. The universe has given us a gift today. We're taking it. I don't know how else to say it. We're taking it. And you can do this exercise every day. The universe will always have another gift for you. That's the law of abundance. It really manifests as you believe it. Now let's go back to our heart for a moment. Just feel that warmth in your heart. Now there's going to be a third ball of light. You can either hold it in your hands or just imagine it twirling right in front of you. But it's the same thing. We're filling it up with light, we're filling it up with energy. And I want you to do that now. There's a beautiful ball of light right in front of you. And we're calling in your guides and your angels to help us with this gift. Now, do you see that ball of light? If again, if you're not a visual person, if you're not seeing, we're calling in your guides and your angels, and we're intending this beautiful ball of light or consciousness to be right in front of us. And into this ball of light or consciousness, we are inviting our child self. We don't know what age is going to walk into that ball of light. We don't really know what we're going to feel. So I want you to keep the ball of light empty and sit here for a minute and just see if your child self walks in. And I want you to notice how do you feel? How old is this self that's coming into this light? You may get impressions of your child self or a memory. You may just get a vague feeling, a message, a color. I want you to stick with it and just see, let it guide you. See what you're perceiving now. Your job is to continue to send light into this bubble to this child. If you aren't seeing anything at all, I want you to intend to send light to a younger version of yourself. And I want your guides and angels to give you a clue. Maybe go back to a time that was upsetting for you, that seemed like a crossroads. Let's take a moment and really perceive this age of this child that you are, and also maybe the environment that they were in. If you're feeling the emotional environment of your child's self, how does it feel in your body now? Are you getting feelings and how do they feel? If this child could say something to you, your adult self, right now, what would they say? If it seems fuzzy or vague, just keep holding light. Keep holding the intention that you want your child to heal. If you could say anything to your younger self right now, what would you say? If there's an adult in the child's life that you remember you wanted to please or play a role with, I want you to focus in on that now. An adult or many adults, what was your role and how did you get their approval? Now we're going to ask our angel to step in and cut cords with those adults. Even if they're people that you love and you really wanted to please, we still don't want to be drained by your need for their approval or even your need to be that child. As we cut a cord, what we're basically doing is restoring our own energy and our own power. So I want you to allow your angel to step in now and cut cords with anyone that might have been making you feel like you had to play a role. So now the angel has cut the cords of any adult figure. The environment is melting away in light, and the emotions, any troubling emotions or limiting emotions or fears, even expectations, are now melting away in the light. This beautiful, dancing, bright light is surrounding the child. The whole childhood is just turning to light right now. All the wonderful qualities you had as a child are still there within you. And now we're melting away any barriers. Your angel steps forward to hug your child self. And now your child self is completely surrounded in light. Anything fearful, any expectations, any memories, all washed away by the light now. All of those memories, all of those thoughts, all of those demands, any guilt, fear, shame, worry, we're leaving it all behind because it's all getting washed away by the light. Everybody's getting healed. And now the angel is leading your child self right back into your heart. Your child self will always be safe now. Your child self is in your heart. All the wonderful talents and abilities and qualities of your child self are right there for you to use now. But that environment, that role, anything negative is just washed away now. Let's put a little seal on your heart. A little door of light closes, and your child self is now safe in your heart, filled up with unconditional love, divine love. And we're asking your angels and guides to continue to heal your child self, to make you feel so secure and loved you don't have to play a role anymore, to feel that certainty of love, guidance, strength, divine perception. We're calling for that every single day from now on. And now see your little child self all tucked into bed, a bed of light, covered in light, surrounded by angels, just healing. So comfortable, so full of love. Feel that light spread all throughout your body, that warmth all throughout your body. And we ask your guides and angels to continue the healing in the days to come so that you get more and more awareness and more confidence and more a feeling of total strength and happiness. Take a breath. Take a deep, deep breath. Slowly come back to the room now. You might want to stretch a little. When you feel ready, just open your eyes. Keep breathing if you're processing some stuff. Reach for your journal if you want to write some things. Um, Jim and I are always open to any comments from this class. You can email us through our website, www.infinitelight.me. We're open to praying for people. So if you need prayers, let us know. And this is a recording, so it will be posted on our YouTube site, which is Infinite Light LLC, because there's other infinite lights. But it's Infinite Light LLC, and you can get this class as well as all the other classes we've done for free. And you can do this meditation again or any of our meditations again. Now, does anybody have any questions now or comments or anything? It's been wonderful to see you guys today. Just looking at the comments, I'm really glad that we were able to reach everybody. Um, and you had a good experience. Thank you.
Another thing is we if you look at like our last two or three classes, they kind of go in sequence, right? One was, I think, healing. I forgot what the one two times ago was, but they go into sequence. One was about, healing suffering, right? And suffering is misperception. So, like in this class, it's about abundance. Well, the opposite of abundance is lack. If you're ever feeling lack, that other class about how to heal suffering, lack is suffering, right? So it gives you steps on how to clear it. So this, in an hour each, we really can't touch on these, completely. But if you look at like the last three classes, they kind of go in sequence. The first one teaches you a set of things, and then the second one is about clearing and healing. I forgot what was the one two ago, Abby? Do you remember?
I can't remember. I should. But somebody was asking what is website. The website is www.infinitelight.me, M-E. And then the YouTube channel is Infinite Light, but it's LLC, like a company. We just had to have that because there were other Infinite Lights, but it's Infinite Light LLC. That's where you'll find all of our free classes. The next class is going to be on February 15th. And if you're on our mailing list, we'll send you all the information. We'll be posting it on Meetup. If you'd like to get on our permanent mailing list, just email us through the website. Or I think I put Jim's email on the last communication. It's one jimmccarthy@gmail.com.
Cool.
And of course, we are thinking of expanding this into a day-long course about abundance, perhaps doing on the West Coast and the East Coast. So if you're interested, just let us know because I think there's a lot to do about abundance and lack, a lot of wisdom, and a lot of clearing exercises because the more I get into this myself, the more I realize I really can manifest. I mean, who knew? Um, but but anyway, it kind of works, and we're happy to share it, I guess, is the way to say it.
Yeah, you could spend a whole weekend on this, and awareness is power. And if you have awareness to where you can just recognize things that are blocking your stream of light and your flow of abundance and know how to clear them and practice it, which is what we do in a day-long class. Once you get into the habit of that, then, there's a universal law that in the presence of light, darkness has no power, meaning fear has no power, right? So whenever you feel something that's not light, like whenever you're in your mind and you're in fear or lack or whatever, you get the mail and a bill comes and you're like, oh, I don't have money for this, right? That's when you're triggered emotionally, and that's when you turn to the light and you ask the light to take that fear out of you and heal your thoughts and bring light and bring solutions. And then you get out of the way and you let it unfold. And as that stuff starts to unfold in your life, you'll have faith because you're going to realize, holy crap, this really works, right? It's like, before you were trying to do it on your own, now you've got this huge power and this huge consciousness that knows how to bring things. And I think I said last class, I've worked with a lot of people that had legal battles going on, divorce battles going on. And I think out of like 20 some odd cases, only one of them didn't go the way the person wanted it, right? Because I brought light into the courtroom, I brought light into the judge, I brought light into the lawyers. And light dominates when it's present, right? It has a way of just having omnipotence, all power, right? But if it's not brought in and you're just stuck in your mind, then darkness rules, right? It's like, they say to bless your food before you eat it. Why? Because if the chef was having a really bad day and he's thinking all these horrible thoughts, those get projected into the food, right? Not to mention other things from the way it was raised. But if you just take the time to bring light to the food, it cleanses everything instantly, right? And then what you eat is more pure, right? That's the way it is in this world. We have to like constantly be sending light to the work that we're doing and give light authority over the work. And as you do that, your faith will grow because you'll realize you have resources you never had before. And you don't have to think about it, it just happens.
And I'll just mention to anyone listening is that Jim does work one-on-one with people and takes on anything from court cases to addiction to personal problems. But just by that simple act of bringing light to things, he's had amazing success. So if you feel like working with Jim, all you have to do is go to the website and you'll see a part where you can communicate with him directly. Again, it's www.infinitelight.me.
And there's also some free downloads of prayers on the website that are very effective at clearing energy. So they've been proven for years and it works. You just got to use it. Okay. And that's on the website. I think it's on the sessions page at the bottom, but it's free for you to download them. And I update them every once in a while. So if you haven't checked it for a while, check it. And and then Abby and I, like every time there's prayer requests that come in, we respond by praying and bringing people to light. And we're always going to these very big portals of light. And when we pray for people from those portals of light, things happen that just don't normally happen. I mean, I got a text from someone. Well, there's one girl that we've been working with that had stage 4 cancer, like in like lungs, colon, liver, uh, colon, liver,
Yeah.
lymphatic system. And she was like, skeletonly thin. And we brought her into these prayer things and we worked with her and kept her in prayer circles. And now all of her cancer is gone except for a little bit of liver cancer. But her cancer markers when we started were 150. Now they're 12. Okay. So, she went from being on death's door to being almost fully, in remission. And I think she'll actually be in full remission very soon. But we just kept her in prayers. And, I put her on Sarah O'Mara's prayer list. She's an excellent conduit of the Holy Spirit with a huge healing gift. And so when people ask us for prayers, not only do we pray for them, but we bring them to some of these extremely high energy portals where there's, a lot of healing going on that weekend for a lot of people. And I just say the prayers for them. I mean, I had a horse with a lame leg. I prayed for it in this portal. The leg was healed. Okay.
Yeah, he healed a horse. Isn't that
Well, I
great?
didn't, but
Well, but
I
you
was,
did. You did. I was amazed. I thought they were going to have to put the horse down. I thought that
but
was so cool.
but the
I
thing
think it's
was,
amazing.
I started working with this person with the horse, and when I tuned in, my guidance said it's between the horse and God, whether that horse lives or not. And I was like, okay. So then I started working with the horse and sending it light. I don't have to send God light. And eventually the horse was completely healed. Then something else happened to the horse and it was healed again. But it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with connecting it to light. And, I brought in the, like next weekend, Abby and I'll be at Prayer Warriors, which is this huge grid of the Holy Spirit energy. So if you guys want prayers, just email us and just tell us what you want to pray for. And I bring a whole list of people in for that and I pray for 2 hours. Okay. But people have been healed of like brain tumors instantly from that specific grid of energy. So it's a service that we do. We don't charge for it. If you want to make a donation, you can make donations on our website. We appreciate that because these are all free. But if you don't, that's fine. Okay. We'll pray and we'll just, your role is just to be open and realize there's nothing impossible.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah. That's your role is just to be open to receive and just allow it to unfold.